Officer Brent Walker thought he was disciplining a nobody when he kicked Maya Ellison in front of the entire precinct. But Maya wasn't just another black woman, she was the new internal affairs chief sent to investigate officers like him. She stayed silent, not because she was afraid, but because she was setting a trap. And that kick it triggered everything she needed. What happens when a racist cop assaults the one person who holds the power to end his entire career on camera? Drop a comment if you've ever seen arrogance turn into regret. Now let's uncover how one woman flipped the system without raising her voice. It happened in broad daylight, right in the department's back lot where the cameras didn't reach, and the silence was bought with fear. Officer Brent Walker stepped out first, chewing gum, strutting like the king of nothing. Behind him, Officers Deborah King and Jason Reese followed close like wolves sniffing blood. That morning, they weren't on duty, but they were hunting. She stood alone by the fence, Maya Ellison, a black woman in a slate gray coat, no badge showing no nameplate, just a calm presence that seemed to irritate the hell out of them. Walker squinted at her, annoyed. She wasn't moving fast enough for his liking. "Hey," he barked. "You lost, sweetheart. This isn't the community center." Maya didn't flinch, just looked at him. One steady gaze. Jason Reese laughed. "Maybe she's mute. Or dumb," Deborah added. "Or she just doesn't understand orders." Walker's jaw tensed. "Guess she needs a reminder." Before anyone could stop him, if anyone even tried, Walker stepped forward and kicked Maya hard in the side. The impact threw her back against the squad car. She crumpled to the asphalt with a sharp exhale, but still no sound. No scream, no begging, just her palms pressed into the concrete, steady, controlled. And then her eyes, looking right at him. What, no tears? Deborah King laughed bitterly. She probably deserved it. "Look at that face, bet she mouthed off to someone important." Jason added with a sneer. "Don't worry. Won't be the last time she hits pavement." But Maya said nothing. She stood up slowly, brushing her coat off, not looking at any of them now. Her fingers trembled for half a second, just enough to catch if you were really watching. But then she adjusted her bag, and the tiniest red light buried deep in the seam of the strap kept blinking. No one saw it. No one ever sees the trap until it's too late. Deborah King leaned closer with a half laugh. "You gonna report that, sweetheart? Huh, gonna cry to HR?" Maya's voice was soft, dead calm. "Why would I report a man for digging his own grave that shut them up?" But only for a moment. Walker scoffed. "What the hell did you just say?" Maya turned to him. "I said, you just gave me everything I needed." Jason frowned. "What is she?" But Maya had already started walking. Not away, but toward the building. Her back straight, slow steps like she was counting them. Deborah muttered. "She's bluffing," Walker barked. "You walk off like that again, and I'll make sure Internal Affairs has your name for obstruction. You hear me?" Maya stopped, turned her head just enough. "I am Internal Affairs." Silence. Thick, paralyzing. They laughed, nervously, then not at all. Because inside her coat pocket was a badge. One Walker had mocked before in other meetings from behind closed doors, but he'd never seen it from this angle. Maya Ellison, Director of Internal Affairs, and that little red light. It had caught every insult, every threat, and that kick. She kept walking. Walker stayed, frozen lips parted like he wanted to say something but couldn't decide if it should be an apology or a lawyer's number. Inside the precinct, a junior officer passed her and whispered, "Ma'am, are you okay?" Maya didn't stop walking. "I'm just getting started." They kicked the wrong woman, and they were about to lose everything. The night before it all went down, Maya Ellison sat alone in her apartment, lights, dimmed, silence thick. She wasn't nervous. She was ready. On her kitchen table lay a black duffel already packed, recorder batteries, a clean ID, legal files, and her badge tucked in a velvet pouch. Not out of shame, but because power, when quiet, cuts deeper. This was her final operation. The last stop. After years of rooting out corruption from city to city, this case was personal. She picked up the worn photo taped to her refrigerator creases, like scars corners bent from being held too many times. It was her brother, Jerome Ellison, 21, shot by police during a routine traffic stop. No gun, no threat, just a furtive movement that cost him his life. The officer, cleared, promoted, case closed. For most families, that would have been the end, but not for Maya. That photo, his half-smile, tilted baseball cap, the sun in his eyes was why she joined the force, why she rose faster than anyone expected, why she'd learned to move in silence, until the moment silence could shake the system. Her phone buzzed, a single text. Morales need backup. She smiled. Morales was her old partner, retired now, still watched her six from a distance. Maya, no. This needs to come from me. She stood and zipped the bag shut. One movement, one breath. Tomorrow wasn't just another sting, it was the reckoning. 6:14 a.m. IA office. Maya stood alone by the back filing shelf, eyes scanning one last set of documents. Photos, transcripts, complaints that vanished, body cam footage that malfunctioned, and at the center of all of it, Brent Walker. He wasn't just another bad cop with a temper. He was the final thread in a much bigger web, a protection ring that shielded brutal officers and kept whistleblowers in the dark. 3 previous officers had gone down under Maya's watch. But Walker. He'd slipped through every net. Too careful, too connected. Until now. She'd been monitoring him for 8 weeks. Shadow interviews, hidden surveillance, anonymous reports from inside the department. But what she needed was his mask to drop. Publicly, visibly, not provoked, exposed. That's why she went in without announcing herself. No badge, no briefing. She wasn't coming to confront him. She came to let him do what he always does. Her phone chimed again. Morales. You sure about walking into that lot alone? Maya stared at the screen, then typed. Maya, I'm not walking in alone. I'm walking in with truth. And a camera. She didn't sleep much that night. Didn't need to. She'd rehearsed it 100 times in her head, not what to say, but how to react. Silence. Control. Let the arrogance do the talking. She knew Brent Walker's type. He didn't just want to intimidate. He wanted to humiliate. He needed to feel bigger, louder, in control. And that's exactly what she gave him the stage to do. What they didn't realize, what they never realize, is that women like Maya aren't there to fight for dignity. They carry it already. She wasn't there to prove anything. She was there to reveal everything. And when the kick came hard and unapologetic, she didn't react out of weakness. She stayed still, because she wanted it on tape. She stood slowly, because she knew it would haunt him. And she didn't answer, because silence sometimes is louder than rage. She wasn't the victim of that kick. She was the architect of their downfall. And the trap had just been sprung. The sun had climbed higher, but the air in the lot had grown colder. You could feel it, something shifting, like the wind itself knew something was about to break. Maya stood by the fence again, quiet still. The bruise on her ribs throbbed, but she didn't flinch, not once. Her coat hung neatly around her shoulders, untouched. But inside that coat, truth was still ticking. The camera hadn't stopped. Walker came back this time with swagger in every step. He'd had time to stew, and worse time to feel untouchable again. Deborah King chuckled behind him, sipping coffee like it was a movie. Jason Reese cracked his neck. It wasn't enough to humiliate Maya once they needed to finish the scene. Look at her, Walker smirked. Still standing like she owns the place. You'd think that kick would have taught her some manners. Deborah added, I've seen stray dogs with more sense. Jason snorted. Maybe she thinks she's Rosa Parks. All she needs is a bus. They laughed. Loud. Sharp. It wasn't just mockery, it was cruelty polished by practice. But Maya didn't move. Walker stepped closer. Say something. Anything. What cat got your tongue? Or did I kick that out of you too? Nothing. He raised a hand mocking salute, then slowly curled it into a fist. Deborah watched, grinning. Jason muttered, "Now she's gonna learn." Walker's hand came up. Maya's eyes rose with it, and just as he began to swing, she whispered, calm as breath, "Finish it. I'm watching." It stopped him mid-motion. What? Maya stepped forward. Just one step. Walker's fist still hung in the air, unsure. "You wanted to hurt me," she said softly. "Then do it. Go on. Finish what you started." For a second, silence. Then, in a flash of impulse, he shoved her hard, right into the metal fence behind her. The clang rang across the lot like a gunshot. But Maya didn't stumble. She rebounded. Instantly. Twisted. Shifted her weight. And with one fluid move, she dropped him to the concrete. A firm shoulder check. A sweep. A fall. Walker hit the ground hard. Wind knocked out of him. Face in dust. Deborah gasped. Jason took a step forward, then hesitated. Maya didn't follow up. She didn't yell. She didn't gloat. She simply reached for her coat and pulled it open. Inside, her badge. Internal Affairs Division. Director Maya Ellison. It glinted in the sunlight like a blade, and the blinking red light right above it was still going. Deborah's coffee cup slipped from her hand and shattered. Jason took another step back. Oh no. Maya looked at them, each one. Not with anger, but with something colder. Certainty. "You just assaulted your new superior." Her voice was calm. "It's all recorded. And this entire lot is going under." Walker groaned from the ground, his voice hoarse. You set me up." "No," Maya replied, kneeling beside him. "You set you up. I just pressed record." Deborah stammered. "We didn't know." Maya cut her off with a glance. "You didn't care to know. That's the difference." Jason tried to mutter something about misunderstanding, about orders, about not recognizing protocol. Maya raised a hand to silence him. "I didn't come here to fight," she said. "I came here to see what happens when you think no one's watching." And now she stood tall again. "Now everyone's going to watch." She tapped the device once. The blinking stopped. The silence that followed wasn't fear. It was the sound of a system cracking. They thought it was just another day, but the day had been planned for years. I was standing right by the edge of the lot when it happened. The radio crackled first. "Unit 3, be advised." Chief Ellison confirmed on sight. There was a silence that fell quick and suffocating, like someone had pulled the oxygen out of the air. Brent Walker froze. The name hadn't hit him yet, but I saw it in his eyes. It was about to. Then came the roar of black Suburbans. Tires screeched. Doors flung open. Out stepped Morales' badge, already in hand. Behind him, the federal task force moved like a wave, quiet, fast, surgical. Brent Walker Morales said, voice even, "You're under arrest for assault, obstruction, and conspiracy under federal code." Walker laughed at first, like it was some prank. "Is this a joke?" Morales didn't flinch. "Does it look like I'm laughing?" Brent looked around, searching for allies, but the crowd wasn't cheering anymore. The two young officers who had stood beside him, Collins and Reeves, they had already stepped back, eyes down, and then, from the main doors of the precinct, came Captain Turner. He walked slow, heavy, each step like he was dragging something more than his boots. Not a single word from him, just a stare, a long one. Turner reached Brent, looked him straight in the eye, and then without ceremony tore the badge from Walker's chest. It made a sound, tiny metal against fabric, but it was loud enough to end a career. Brent's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Maybe he thought Turner would say something. Maybe he needed it. But Turner just held the badge for a moment in his hand, then dropped it to the ground. No one moved to pick it up. Maya hadn't said a word since the hit. She didn't need to. She was walking now slowly across the lot, her coat still open, IA badge glinting in the sun. The breeze caught her collar just enough to lift it a small thing, but it made her look 10 feet tall. As she approached the squad, the silence deepened. And then something happened. Those same two officers, Collins and Reeves, who had just cheered Brent an hour ago. They stepped aside. No words, no apology, just shame. Like the ground beneath them had shifted and they were standing on the wrong side of history. Morales glanced at Maya as she passed. She nodded once. Just once. That was all the signal he needed. Brent was cuffed, hands behind his back, still stunned, still trying to understand how the woman he kicked turned out to be the highest-ranking person on site. "You set me up," he muttered. Maya paused just once by his side. "No," she said softly. "You revealed yourself." Then she turned. As she walked back to her car, people cleared the way, not out of fear, but something else. Respect. Accountability. Maybe both. She opened the door, slid inside, but didn't drive off just yet. She looked back just for a second. Through the glass. Her eyes met mine. And in that gaze, there wasn't triumph. There was resolve. Not revenge. Not pride. Just the steady look of someone who had waited a long time for the truth to breathe. That lot that morning wasn't just a scene. It was a turning point. And none of them, not Brent, not the precinct, not the city, would be the same after. The kick was over. But the storm it caused was just beginning. It didn't take long, maybe 5 hours, maybe less. By nightfall, the video was everywhere, clipped, zoomed, captioned, looped over headlines that screamed, "Black woman kicked by cop turns out to be his superior." Internal Affairs Chief takes down racist officer in sting operation. The kick that backfired nationally. Cable news rolled it on repeat. Talk shows couldn't stop. Some called Maya a hero. Some questioned her tactics, but none denied what they saw. That kick. The moment she stood up calm, unflinching. The flash of her badge. The way Brent's face collapsed when he realized who she was. Maya sat alone in her apartment. No lights on. Just the soft blue glow from the TV and the constant buzz of her phone. Texts, emails, DMs, dozens, then hundreds. Some were from people she didn't know. A retired teacher. "You made me proud today. My daughter watched it 3 times. A young man from Chicago. That look on your face, that was for all of us. Others came from old colleagues, people who used to sit in the same briefings, eat in the same mess hall. Some were warm, some awkward. A few just said, "I didn't know. I should have." And then there was one from Iris Monroe, her former field partner now in DC. It was short, just one line. "They'll try to spin it. Be ready." Maya stared at that message longer than she meant to. Because Iris was never wrong. Her phone buzzed again this time. Not a message. A file. It was from Captain Turner. No text. No explanation. Just the file name, Walker Lot, Cam Side Feed, Move. Maya opened it. It was from a different angle. Not the camera in her coat. This one was from a squad car dash cam parked behind the fence. In the video after the kick, while Maya was still on the ground, Walker had walked over to Officer Mercer and whispered something. The audio was grainy, but clear enough to catch 4 chilling words. It had to be done. Maya froze, not because of what Walker said, but because of the name he'd said it to Mercer. Detective Joel Mercer. Someone she had already flagged in her internal notes as suspicious. Someone with years of misconduct complaints that never stuck. And then another name flickered in her head. Thorne. Detective Stephen Thorne. Killed in an alleged gang retaliation last fall. But the footage, the reports, the language, they had never added up. Now it made sense. It had to be done. Those 4 words weren't just about her. They were about Thorn. And Thorn had been trying to blow the whistle before he died. Maya leaned back on her couch. This wasn't about a single officer anymore. Not just Brent. Brent was the foot soldier. Mercer was the bridge. And somewhere above them, there was a system that had decided who needed to be silenced, who deserved to be handled. She closed the video, let the silence in. A storm was coming, and it wouldn't be just from the outside. The department would protect itself. They always did, which meant they'd come for her next. Across the city, in newsrooms and group chats in fire stations and barbershops, people were talking. Some couldn't believe it. Others said it's been like this for years, and a few, the quietest ones, were already deleting emails. In the back of one dark office, an older man in uniform watched the video. He didn't say a word. He just reached for the phone, dialed, and muttered, "It's her. She's not walking away from this." But Maya Ellison wasn't planning to walk away. She was planning to dig deeper and expose every name that thought they were still safe. It didn't take long. Just 36 hours after the footage exploded across every major news channel, the backlash arrived, but not the kind Maya had prepared for. This was strategic, coordinated. News banners ran with bold, venomous questions. Was this a setup? Did Internal Affairs bait a decorated officer? Chief Ellison's true motives justice or revenge? They didn't question Walker's actions. They questioned hers. Her silence, her presence, her intent. By mid-morning, a viral video had surfaced, chopped up, overlaid with dramatic music, pulling her calm stance out of context. Look at her face. She was waiting for that kick, a TV host said. This wasn't justice. This was entrapment. Maya stared at the screen in her apartment. Same footage. Different truth. Twisted until it looked like she was the one abusing power. And behind it all, silence from the city. No defense, no statement. Until it landed. A formal letter. Suspension effective immediately. Pending investigation into alleged procedural misconduct. No trial, no appeal. Just a stamp. Morales stormed into her apartment like a fuse already lit. "They're gunning for you," he said, voice low but sharp. "This isn't pushback, Maya. This is war. They're burying you before the real house of cards collapses." Maya held the letter in both hands, not shaking but still. "I knew they'd come for me. I just thought I'd be further along." Morales shook his head. "You were. That's why they're panicking. You cut too deep." He tossed a folder onto her coffee table. Inside was a transcript from the holding cell. Walker whispering to Mercer, "If she connects us to Thorn, we're all done." That move, it had to be done. He left us no choice. Maya's breath caught. Thorn, her old friend, the whistleblower who died in a car crash last spring. She had suspected foul play. But this was a thread tied straight to the rot. "They're not just covering for each other," she whispered. "They're erasing anyone who speaks." Morales looked at her eyes heavy. "And they'll do it again, if we let them." That night, Maya sat by herself. The apartment was too quiet. Even the city outside felt distant, like it too had turned its back. She picked up the photo of her brother Marcus. The edges were worn, his smile still defiant. The kind of smile only young black men have. Before the world teaches them, it's dangerous to look confident. He had that smile when the cops stopped him, and still wore it when they shot him dead. They said he reached for something. They never released the body cam. "They never paid for you," she whispered. "But maybe, this time, they will." Her phone buzzed. A single message from Iris Monroe, a retired IA legend. Maya's mentor. Her only mirror. "They're rewriting the story already. Be ready. They don't fight fair." She replied with just one line, "Neither do I." Then came the knock. Turner. Still in uniform, but without his badge. His eyes were tired, like a man who'd been standing on both sides of the battlefield for too long. He sat beside her in silence. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out a small coin, IA's challenge coin, old and worn. "This was mine," he said. "Got it the year I broke the case on the Lanier beatings. Thought I made a difference." He set it on the table. "You think justice means applause, that people will cheer when you pull the curtain back?" She looked up. Voice raw. "No. I hoped maybe I'd at least get to finish." Turner gave a weary half-smile. "Justice doesn't get to finish. It endures. Through the noise. Through the lies. Through people calling it a witch hunt." He nodded toward the screen still flashing with headlines. "They're trying to paint you as a villain, Maya, because it's easier than looking in the mirror." She didn't speak for a while. Then finally, soft but certain I didn't come for applause, Turner stood, paused in the doorway. "Good," he said, "because what's coming next won't give you any." And he left. But the quiet didn't last. Emails, letters, messages. A grandmother from Georgia. "I lost my grandson to cops who never saw him as human. Thank you for standing up." A veteran IA agent from another state. "They tried to break me too. Don't let them." And then a name she didn't expect. Amira Hayes, one of the officers who had turned away during the arrest. "I want to talk. I saw things I can't ignore anymore. If you're still fighting, I'll help." Maya stared at the screen. She wasn't in command anymore. She was under attack. But suddenly, she wasn't alone. It was nearly midnight when Officer Elena Sanchez found the anomaly. She wasn't looking for it. Honestly, she was just trying to clear a backlog of access logs before her shift ended. But something in the pattern didn't sit right. A file opened from the evidence room at 2:43 a.m., just hours before Sergeant Thorne was found dead in his car. The user ID attached masked, unauthorized. She froze. The evidence room was locked down at night. There was a protocol, signatures, cameras. This wasn't just a glitch, it was someone trying to erase a footprint. Sanchez didn't go to her captain. She went to Maya. The two women met in the parking lot behind the precinct where the air still carried the echo of that infamous kick. Maya stood silently as Sanchez approached, holding a printout in one hand and a flicker of fear in the other. "There was a breach," Sanchez said quietly. "The night Thorne died." Maya looked at the paper, her eyes scanning quickly, then locking onto the timestamp. "Do you know who accessed it?" she asked. Sanchez shook her head. "They masked the ID, but the system logged the terminal E28. That's Mercer's post." Maya looked up sharply. The name struck a nerve. Officer Mercer, always too quiet, too perfectly uninvolved. She remembered him flanking Walker at the lot that day, expression unreadable. Maya exhaled slowly. "I knew someone still believed in truth here," she said, looking Sanchez in the eye. Sanchez blinked. "They won't believe me." "They will," Maya replied. "Because you matter." Together they met Morales and Turner in a small operations room away from the main floor. Turner reviewed the logs, his jaw tightening. Morales cross-referenced Mercer's shifts and found a chilling pattern. Mercer had been on duty every night. Something had gone missing. No questions, no cameras, no witnesses, just clean administrative vanishing. Turner set the paper down and looked at Maya. "This wasn't about protecting Walker," he said. "Mercer's covering something bigger." Maya nodded slowly. "Then it's time we found out what." They followed the trail to a locked storage facility 3 blocks from the main station. A forgotten satellite archive the department barely acknowledged anymore. A place meant for cold cases, dismissed complaints, boxes of records no one wanted to deal with. A place no one would think to check. Maya stood in front of the steel doors, heart pounding in her chest. This was where Thorne once begged her to look, where he said the ghosts lived. She keyed in the access code. Turner had recovered an old override code tied to Mercer's badge. The lock clicked. Inside, the air was stale. Dust coated the boxes. Rows upon rows of files stood untouched, silent and watchful. A hum from the single light bulb overhead gave everything a pale, flickering glow. Sanchez stepped in behind her, quiet. Morales followed, flashlight sweeping over faded labels, use of force reports, complaint logs, body cam archives. Maya walked down the center aisle, her eyes tracing dates. She stopped at one box labeled June 12th, Thorn internal memo. She reached for it, but the shelf beneath it was empty. Maya looked down. An outline of dust revealed something had recently been moved, scraped, removed. Turner knelt, ran a gloved hand across the floor, then held up a shard of plastic burned at the edge. Someone tried to destroy a drive, he muttered. Sanchez whispered, "They're trying to erase him." Maya stood still, hands clenched. Her voice was calm but steady. "Then we don't leave until we find what they missed." She turned to Morales. "You said Thorn duplicated everything." Morales nodded. That was his paranoia. "Always had a plan B," Good Maya said. "Because if Mercer's hiding the truth, this is where we unbury it." The smell hit her first, acrid, sharp, undeniable. Maya stepped into the back corridor of the storage facility, flashlight beam cutting through the dark like a blade. Smoke curled beneath the iron door at the far end. Someone was inside. She didn't run. She walked slow, deliberate. Every footstep a promise. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, Mercer stood in a panic. Sleeves rolled, sweat pouring down his face. Flames crackled in a rusted burn barrel in the center of the room. Paper turned to ash mid-air. File boxes lay torn open, their contents scattered, scorched, vanishing. He looked up, saw her, and drew his gun. "Don't come any closer." His voice trembled. The weapon shook in his hand. Maya didn't flinch. "You're burning evidence," she said calmly. "What are you so afraid we'll find?" Mercer swallowed hard. Walker made me do it." Maya tilted her head. "That's your defense." "He had dirt on all of us," Mercer snapped. "Photos, recordings. He said if we didn't shut up, we'd go down too." Maya stepped further into the light, her badge visible. "And you said nothing. You buried victims. You let Thorn die." Mercer's voice cracked. "I didn't kill him." "But you didn't stop it either," she said. "You picked silence over justice." His eyes darted to the fire. One last box lay on the floor beside him, lid open, contents half charred. Maya took a slow step forward. Behind Mercer, a shadow moved. Morales. He crept in silently, weapon drawn steady. "Then, drop it," Morales commanded. Mercer froze. The gun clattered to the floor. He dropped to his knees, hands raised, breath shaking. Maya didn't say a word. She walked past him to the fire barrel, used the tongs nearby to pull out what she could. Charred folders, blackened envelopes, bits of paper still intact around the edges. From one half-burnt file, the corner survived just enough. She squinted under her flashlight. Filed complaint. Name, Brent Walker. Result suppressed. Maya held it in her gloved hand. There it was. Proof that someone had once spoken and had been silenced. Morales cuffed Mercer, pressing him face down onto the concrete. "You have the right to remain silent. You've done it long enough." Mercer whimpered. Maya stood over the barrel, watching the last of the smoke fade. The flames had eaten truth, but not all of it. Morales joined her. "You okay?" "No," Maya replied, voice low. "But we're not done yet." She stared down at the file in her hand. One burned page, one survivor, enough to reopen everything. City Hall never looked more silent. Rows of officials sat in stiff suits, hands folded over stacks of reports they hadn't read. The room buzzed with tension as Maya stood before the council with her posture calm but gaze unflinching. Behind her was the screen. The evidence: 12 officers, 6 suppressed reports, 1 death. She let the silence speak first. Then she clicked the remote. A paused video blinked alive, Walker smirking in the precinct lot, his boot flying toward her chest. His voice: she probably deserved it. The laughter. The fall. And then the badge. The truth. Gasps fluttered across the chamber. One commissioner shifted in his seat, eyes wide. Another rubbed his temple like trying to erase what he saw. Maya's voice broke the silence, not loud, but firm. This isn't just about me. It's about a system that rewarded silence and punished integrity. A woman from the public section stood up, gray-haired, steady. My son, she said, voice trembling, was taken by one of those men. Shot in the alley behind our church. No one listened. No one cared. Her finger pointed at Maya, was the only one who called me back. Maya lowered her eyes briefly, then raised them again with resolve. I'm not here to ask for sympathy. I'm here to demand accountability. She stepped closer to the microphone. Her hands didn't shake. Not anymore. I'm recommending immediate suspension of the 12 officers listed in this file, full retraining under external review, and an independent data access protocol. Internal Affairs must be allowed to retrieve case files without gatekeeping. Murmurs rose, not all friendly. A commissioner leaned forward. His tone clipped. Ms. Whitaker, what gives you the authority to dictate police policy at this level? Another added, who exactly are you to demand all this? Maya didn't blink. I'm the one who stayed, she said, when the rest turned away. A pause. I stayed when the mothers cried and no reports were filed. I stayed when good cops were buried in bureaucracy. And I stayed when your officers kicked me down and thought I'd stay silent like every other woman they've buried in paperwork. The room held its breath. Some averted their eyes. Others stared straight at her because now they couldn't pretend not to see. You want to talk authority? Maya leaned forward. Let's talk about the authority we lost the minute we valued loyalty over justice. I've seen it firsthand. The cover-ups, the edits, the threats. I lived it, and I recorded it. Councilmember Darnell, one of the few black members, spoke up, his voice low but steady. Ms. Whitaker, we've been needing someone like you for a long time. But be prepared. Change here moves like molasses. Maya offered a faint smile. Molasses burns just fine when it's hot enough. A beat passed. Then an older white councilman, the same who had questioned her moments ago, cleared his throat. Do you have evidence beyond the video? Maya nodded. In addition to the footage, the files we recovered from Officer Mercer, Link Walker, directly to suppressed IA complaints, including one tied to the death of Officer Thorne. The same Thorne whose badge went missing until last week. She paused, pulled out a thin folder. This is his original complaint. It was buried. But now it's in your hands. Do what you will. She stepped back. For a moment, silence reclaimed the room. Then, like a ripple, it began soft claps from the back, swelling slowly into a standing ovation. Not everyone stood, but enough to make the rest shift uncomfortably in their seats. Maya didn't smile. She didn't need to. Outside City Hall, the air was thick with press, camera flashes, microphones pointed like weapons, but Maya walked straight through them, eyes ahead. Turner met her at the steps. You all right? She exhaled. I'm not trying to win, just trying not to lose what matters. He nodded. City's watching now. Good, she said. So are we. When Maya stepped back into the Internal Affairs office, the silence wasn't cold anymore. It was full, weighted. Not with fear, but with recognition. No one cheered. No one clapped. But slowly, from one desk to the next, people began to look up and nod. Not out of politeness, out of understanding. The young intern by the door gave her a soft, "Welcome back, ma'am." Another officer, one who never used to meet her eyes, stood when she passed his hand, brushing his badge. She didn't smile. Not yet. But her eyes did soften. Turner caught up with her just outside her office. "You know this isn't over, right?" he said, voice low. She turned to him steady as ever. "Good," she replied. He laughed, gently shaking his head. "That's the part I love and hate about you." The door behind them creaked open. Morales stepped in, tired but grinning. "So," she said, leaning on the frame, "you didn't break the system, but you made it blink." Maya sat down, the first real sit in days, maybe weeks. She leaned back and whispered almost to herself. "It blinked. That's enough for now." A small recorder sat in her top drawer. She hadn't touched it in years, but today felt right. She pressed play. A teenage voice crackled through the speaker, soft, full of unshaped dreams. "You don't have to yell, sis. One day you'll change this place." The room fell still. Turner looked away. Morales blinked fast. Maya closed her eyes for a moment, just long enough to feel him there. Her brother had been gone 10 years. But his voice, it still held weight. It still guided her in the quiet. Outside her office, the chatter slowly returned. Life, it seemed, was already moving forward. But for Maya Whitaker, the moment wasn't about moving on. It was about anchoring. She hadn't fought to become a hero, or to gain rank, or headlines. She had fought because one boy died unheard, because 12 officers were never told no, because the system had forgotten who it was meant to protect. She had fought because justice doesn't need a podium. It just needs someone who refuses to kneel. She never shouted to be heard. She just refused to kneel. If this story moved you, you're not alone. Maya's journey reminds us that true justice doesn't always come with applause. It comes from the quiet strength of standing firm when the world looks away. Sometimes change doesn't start with a crowd, but with one person who refuses to stay silent. If her courage inspired you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel, Mr. Max Stories, for more powerful tales just like this. Every click, every comment, every share, it's what keeps our team going. Your support is the reason we can continue shining a light on voices that matter. Because here at Mr. Max Stories, we believe one thing above all: the quietest voice can shake the loudest walls. We'll see you in the next story.